In today's noisy world, everyone wants to be heard. Everyone has an opinion, a reaction, a statement to make, but very few understand the power of saying nothing at all. The Stoics did. They lived in turbulent times, political unrest, public chaos, betrayal, and yet their journals and reflections tell a different story of restraint, of choosing peace over ego, of understanding that silence isn't empty. It's full of strength. When you choose to remain silent in the right moments, you're not backing down, you're stepping back to preserve energy, clarity, and control. It's not suppression, it's precision. We often speak to defend, to impress, or simply out of habit. But the wisest among us know not everything deserves a reaction. Not every insult needs a rebuttal. Not every invitation to conflict requires your attendance. Today, we explore 6 moments where silence isn't just wise, it's essential. Because when you master the art of silence, you begin to master yourself. 1. When you're angry, anger is a fire, quick to ignite, easy to spread, and often difficult to control. It surges through the body like a storm. Your pulse quickens, your fists clench, your voice rises, logic fades, and all that's left is the burning need to release it through words, through shouting, through action. But what happens next? Regret. Because the words you say in anger rarely represent who you are. They represent a version of you overtaken by emotion, not guided by wisdom. They are sharp, cutting, and often irreversible. The Stoics warned us about this. Seneca, in his essay on anger, described it as a temporary madness, a moment where the rational part of us is hijacked. So what do you do when you feel it rising? You pause, you breathe, you exit the room, you go for a walk, you count, you journal, but you don't speak. Because silence in anger is not weakness, it's power under control. It says, I am feeling something powerful, but I refuse to let it rule me. Over time, practicing this becomes easier. You learn to recognize the early signs. You sense the tension building, and instead of reacting, you retreat inward. And then when clarity returns, that you can speak with intention, not impulse. That's the real mastery, not never getting angry, but refusing to let anger speak for you. 2. When others are gossiping, gossip is disguised as harmless talk, a shared laugh, a juicy story, a moment of bonding, but it's poison. It erodes trust, damages reputations, and cultivates a culture where backstabbing becomes a sport. And worst of all, the moment you walk away, you become the next topic. The Stoics believed in the speaking only what serves good. Epictetus said, if it's not true, good, or useful, don't say it. So when you hear gossip, resist the urge to participate. You don't need to defend the person being talked about. You don't need to rebuke the gossiper. You just need to stay silent. Your silence sends a signal. I don't engage in this. It might make you seem distant. It might even make you unpopular in certain circles. But long term, you earn respect. You become the person others trust because they know you won't talk behind their back. Over time, your presence becomes calming, your conversations deepen, and you rise above the noise. In a world addicted to drama, your silence becomes rare, and what is rare becomes valuable. When you're being unfairly criticized, not all criticism is equal. Some comes from love, meant to help you grow, but some comes from insecurity, jealousy, even malice. And when you're unfairly attacked, your first instinct is to explain, to fight back, to defend your name. but the more you respond, the more fuel you give. The Stoics believed that truth doesn't need constant defense, it stands on its own. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't be." When you're criticized unfairly, breathe. Ask, is this coming from a place of truth or from someone's unresolved pain? If it's the latter, let it pass. Because silence disarms your critic. It removes their stage. They lash out into a void, and your calmness becomes your armor. And those watching, they see the difference. They see who held integrity, who kept their dignity, and over time, the truth becomes evident. Fighting every lie is exhausting. Silence says, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it to you. 4. When you have nothing meaningful to say, we've become uncomfortable with silence. In conversations, we rush to fill every gap. We speak not because we have something important to say, but because we feel the need to say something. But words spoken without purpose dilute your presence. The Stoics practiced restraint in speech. They believed that speaking less meant each word carried more weight. So the next time you're in a discussion and have nothing valuable to add, say nothing. It might feel awkward, but in that stillness, you gain clarity. You hear better, you observe more, and when you do speak, people will listen because your voice becomes rare, and in its rarity, it gains power. This doesn't mean staying silent out of fear or insecurity. It means choosing your words as a craftsman chooses their tools with care. The fewer your words, the stronger your impact. 5. When someone just wants to argue. Some people don't argue to learn, they argue to win. Their goal isn't clarity, it's dominance. They bait you, twist your words, escalate the moment. And every response you give pulls you deeper into their web. The Stoics knew this well. They refused to engage in fruitless disputes. Seneca wrote, "A wise man does not allow himself to be angered by things he cannot control." And often, you can't control a provocateur. So what do? You stay silent, you nod, you smile, you walk away. They may call you weak, they may mock your silence, but deep down, they're frustrated because you didn't give them what they wanted, your energy. Engaging in every argument is a form of emotional leakage. You lose focus, you lose peace. Reserve your voice for meaningful discourse. Let others waste theirs in empty battles. And over time, you become unshakable. Not because you never face conflict, but because you don't allow conflict to consume you. 6. When you're listening to learn. True listening is rare. Most people don't listen. They wait to respond. They prepare their reply while you're still speaking. But in that haste, they miss everything: tone, subtext, emotion. The Stoics valued listening as a form of wisdom. When you listen deeply, you gain insights that others overlook. Silence is the gateway to true understanding. When someone speaks to you, give them full attention, not to prepare your answer, but to absorb their meaning. Watch their eyes, hear their pauses, feel what's behind their words. And when you do speak, your reply will cut deeper, because it will be rooted in truth, not assumption. Listening is not a passive act, it's an active skill. It requires restraint, patience, and presence. And in mastering it, you gain a kind of quiet power that few ever develop. Silence is not emptiness. It's presence, it's purpose, it's poise. In moments of anger, silence guards you. In gossip, it preserves others. In criticism, it protects your dignity. In chatter, it sharpens your value. In arguments, it saves your energy. And in learning, it deepens your wisdom. You don't need to react to everything. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. And you don't need to win every battle. You just need to know who you are. And sometimes the most powerful way to say that is to say nothing at all. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment below. Share a moment when silence gave you a strength. And if you seek more timeless lessons on the stillness, wisdom, and power within, subscribe to A Stoic Mindset and Money, where ancient wisdom meets modern life, and silence becomes your superpower.